Now, Stephen Lawrence's father has spoken for the first time about the conviction of the two men for the murder of his son. 36-year-old Gary Dobson and David Norris, who's 35, were both found guilty last week of Stephen's murder in 1993. Well, Nevillle Lawrence said that the verdict had been a long time coming.
Well, it's still stinking in, you know. It's been 18 years waiting for that to happen, and it will take a little while for me to get used to the idea that there's actually two people going to be serving time for the death of for the murder of my son Stephen.
You said today it was a watershed moment. In terms of the relief that you felt, it was extraordinarily tense there in the court after all of this time in a long trial when those verdicts came and were read out. When did it actually hit you what had actually happened?
Well, if you cast your mind back, you can see that we didn't get the verdict until after Christmas. And we were hoping that we would have got the verdict before Christmas. And then the other stage was that after the break and we came back in the new year, we still had to wait, because we thought that after starting when the jury went out, they would come back quickly. So the longer we had to wait is the more worrying it was for us. And we were kind of holding our breath when we heard that they had come back in.
They came back and the moment of the verdict itself, just what was the overriding emotion? Was it elation? Was it relief? What was it that went through you at that very moment?
Well, so all those things that you just described, because again, I'm saying that I never thought that we'd ever be sitting in a court waiting for a verdict to be read out and towards people going to prison for the death of Stephen, because it's been 18 years waiting. So without the crucial forensic evidence, which we saw was the only way that we were going to get a result, we were just worried about some of the way people were saying, especially the defense people were saying that the thing was the forensic was not really enough to put them away. So we had to wait for the juries to decide whether or not it was enough to send people away for the murder of Stephen.
You will have heard Doreen speak outside of the Old Bailey about the length of sentence. What are your thoughts about the sentences that Judge Tracy handed down? And he gave a very clear explanation as to why he came to the tariffs he did.
Well, the verdict, as far as I'm concerned, is okay, because it's at Her Majesty's pleasure. And these people who are in prison now has to do certain things before they even being considered to be paroled. And if they don't adhere to some of the things that they have to do, they're going to be staying in there for longer than the 14 and the 15 years or whatsoever they've been given. So I'm quite happy with what's been done.
And in the statements that you've made, you expressed your determination, your hope that Dobson and Norris would give the others up. In terms of the difficulties that future prosecutions, how critical is that part of the equation, that those two actually come forward with new information?
Well, there's still the knife that was used to kill Stephen must have some kind of forensic evidence on it. And if any of these two that's now inside doing time for the murder of Stephen decide to tell the police where that knife is, I feel strongly that we'll be able to put more people in the dock.
You will have seen those reports in the last few days speculating that perhaps those homicide teams at Scotland Yard and the Met might be scaled down. Do you have a view? What would you say to any of those people that might be considering perhaps scaling down this particular team in terms of how they should approach things in the future?
Well, I can understand that there's not enough going to be going on for the next couple of months to have the whole team on the case. For as long as they don't completely close down the inquiry into the death of Stephen and leave space open to kind of start up again in full. If they do find more evidence, I'm quite happy with that.
Just reflecting back, and you've had a few days now, in terms of the struggle, the battle over 18 years, how tough was that on you, on the family, to try to keep pushing forward to get justice done?
It's been very hard, and the fact that we've had so many people who've been a part of what we are doing, and members of the public as well who come up and give us courage to keep fighting, has been really, really good. And I thank all the people from the bottom of my heart who's been supportive to the family over the past 18 years. And I hope that they'll continue to support us in our struggle going forward.
But there were huge obstacles, weren't there? I saw you speaking to Simon Israel on the day when the verdicts came and going through and recounting how actually at one stage they even tried to say to you, there is nothing out there, we're going to have to close this investigation down, and still even at that stage you were not prepared to accept that.
Well, I would never be one of those persons who's going to accept if there's a small chance that there's any way that we're going to get this result that we've just got. And that shows you that if you persist in the views that you have and don't give up and don't take no for an answer, in the end you will succeed. And I will continue to strive to get these other people who are out there walking around free, if possible, to go and serve time for what they've done.
We've seen so much change since your son's murder. Change at the Met, change with every large institution, that the way they look at diversity and how they reflect themselves within society. Do you think this country is a different country as a result of what has happened?
I've already said this more than once, that we should not wait for a tragedy of this kind when there's something wrong with the way we live our life for us to make any kind of change. And for us, it's unfortunate that we had to lose our son in order for any kind of change to happen towards the relationship with the country, which is supposed to be our mother country, and people from abroad being treated so badly by people who don't even know them. And you know, I'm proud and pleased of some of the change that has happened, but I'm not so really pleased because it had to take the death of my son to kind of make that change happen.
And just finally on that thought, I heard you say last week that when you were asked about legacy and were talking about legacy, you said you would far prefer to be sitting there talking to your son, talking to Stephen, rather than talking about any legacy. Just in human terms, it is such a loss for you and for your whole family. And that is something that presumably just dominates your thought on a daily basis.
Well, I won't be having any grandchildren from my son Stephen, which is very unfortunate. And there's no way I'm going to forget this for the rest of my life, because losing one of your family, especially in the way that we've lost our son, is never going to go away. So I'm going to carry this burden with me for the rest of my life. And it's something I wish I didn't have to do, but then it's part of life, and I'll have to just carry on and do the best I can.
Well, that was Nevillle Lawrence talking to me just a little earlier in the day.
Now, with the time